right, traders. So we got to talk about the energy markets here. And we're seeing a pretty big drop on energy across the board. We're not just talking about oil here, although I'm going to specifically be looking at the charts of oil. We're talking also uranium. We're also talking natural gas. So it seems to be this big, theme of a drop in oil, and a lot of people are sort of trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together because, if the equity markets are going up, if many people think that, I guess interest rates are topping, if the China reopen trade is going to be giving a lot more demand into energy, especially oil, why aren't the oil markets heading higher? And there's also the whole idea that perhaps, the market is pricing in, I guess, the failure of the Fed's soft landing, meaning that we are heading to a recession. But again, it doesn't really make sense if the markets are thinking that interest rates are going to peak. That would make a bit more sense, I guess, if you were thinking that rates are going to start to head higher. And again, as I said, very different movements in the equity markets versus what we're seeing in the bond markets. And oil here is breaking down, and not just oil, energy as a whole, right? So it seems as if something's occurring in the energy markets. Maybe oilprice.com here is talking about the production has dropped to a 7-month low here. Global production fell by 365,000 barrels per day in January, hitting a 7-month low. So I guess demand would also have to be dropping, as well as you're seeing a lower output in Canada, Russia, Iraq, and Bahrain as well. And this article as well talking about OPEC Plus will not rush to act after this oil price rout here as well. And they're attributing this drop in the oil markets to fears of a banking crisis, right? Which again, as I said, we've looked at the bond markets, we've looked at the stock market charts, we've looked at the dollar, we've looked at the VIX. Something's not really adding up here, right? Especially if you're thinking that, potentially maybe some of these banks had some leveraged oil positions, right? Maybe that's something that we could talk about here as well. But apparently OPEC Plus not going to be making any sort of production cut, which would, again, spook markets into thinking there was significant demand weakness. So I've been watching this chart of oil for quite some time. We've been seeing the drop. We had this breakdown here below the $95 a barrel. This is West Texas. But I like to look for these markets which, after this major downtrend, show some sort of reversal pattern. And we play that, right? We play these reversal trades. We had a bit of an opportunity here, which looked like, we had this dirty looking head and shoulder pattern for oil. So it looked very bullish for oil. And this is, again, why, we wait for these confirmed breakouts and these closes to get the trade going. Never happened. Instead, we sold off. And oil's just been, for the end of 2022 to where we are now in March 16th of 2023, we've just been ranging. But finally, we got that breakdown. And I think it's a very significant breakdown. It's a very significant technical pattern because of how long this range has been in play. So this is potentially, hinting at lower oil prices. So two ways that this will play out. We'll see this retest eventually on oil. If we can climb back above $72 and close back above, you technically have a false breakdown or a fake out where, these people who are shorting oil get tricked out. We get this false breakdown, and usually when that happens, really soon thereafter, you see a move higher in oil, right? So we get this fake out, we trap the bears, in this case, the bulls step in, and they'll take oil much, much higher. The other trade that can happen, which again is generally what occurs when you get these breakdowns, is you'll eventually see some sort of retest, and the sellers will begin to pile in. And once again, I've talked about those candle confirmations. Wait for the candle to close, because you could potentially see something like, and I got to show you the Bitcoin chart here, something like this, where it looked like Bitcoin was breaking out, but instead you got the seller step in. So this time the bulls got trapped because we didn't actually technically get that close above the resistance level. So, something like that could occur even on a retest where it looks like the price might be breaking out higher, but by the end of the day, the sellers step in and you actually technically have this large wick indicating a retest. And, oil falls back below the lows here at 65 and likely heads to the $50 zone. If I show you guys on the weekly or the long-term charts, you can see why people are quite interested here in the oil markets, just because there appears to be, a bit of a head and shoulder, a broader head and shoulder pattern here as well. Obviously we have a lot of support down here close to that $60 zone as well. So I think that's makes sense for a target to the downside. But I think the weekly chart also does a good job in just highlighting how important this weekly range, right? This weekly chart range has been ranging here since basically mid-November of 2022 to mid-March of 2023, and we finally got that breakdown. So we've had quite the range, and you got that break, which tends to indicate lower prices ahead here for oil. So I think this is definitely a chart that you'll want to watch, and you have the exact same thing happening with Brent crude, right? The UK oil as well. Major support here about to be broken, and the retest is occurring as of now or right now, right? So energy, something is occurring in the energy markets, and we talked about this video, we talked about the uranium markets in a previous video as well. The technicals that we called have triggered perfectly. With Euro, we were looking at this retest here, 2150 zone. Potentially this is what occurs with oil. This is what I mean by retest, where we pull back up and retest the breakdown zone. And we've also seen, if I can bring that one up, the exact same sort of break or pattern in the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust with, there you go, beautiful breakdown and that retest taking uranium prices lower. So this move in energy, I think it's definitely worth watching. As I said, it's not just oil, it's energy as a whole, oil, natural gas, uranium. So I think it's very significant to be watching. I approach this from a technical analysis basis, and we've had this breakdown, right? So that's what I want viewers here to take away. Again, there's this debate between the fundamentals and the technicals. In my trading, I tend to see the technicals occur first, and then, a few days later, we'll get that fundamental news of why things happen. And, I'm not sure why things work like that. Maybe it's imperfect information where I guess insiders know things before things happen. And we've seen that with some of these bank stocks, right, which sold off, and there was big sellers a few days before it happened. Maybe it's similar with oil, right? I'm not saying anything, but there's a big breakdown here, which I think as a technical trader is hinting at lower oil prices. And if you're someone who trades the energy markets, or heck, even if you trade the currencies like the Canadian loonie or the Norwegian krona, which are linked to the price of oil, I think it's something that will obviously help your trading or investing in the short term to the medium term. So that's it for me, folks. Give this video a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe and let me know where you think oil prices are heading here, and why this is occurring, right? Why did we have this breakdown? Is it due to the market now pricing in an economic slowdown and a recession, or is it something completely different, potentially maybe geopolitical, or again, I don't know, something more fundamental that's occurring behind the scenes there. But let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys all in the next chart attack video.